Hey guys, in this video I will be testing this mid-2011 Mac Mini with various games and a couple of apps. I will also be running Geekbench benchmarks on this device, so let's get into it. Starting with Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, a title that came out in 2010, I was surprised to see actually okay frames. So we were getting a high of 14 frames per second, and averagely I was getting about 14 also. At low, I would get 8 frames per second sometimes, but this was actually decently playable if you keep your expectations down for this device. I also had the resolution set a bit lower than default, so if you play around with the resolution and the display image, you can probably get better frame rates. After this, I tried Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and I was actually quite surprised with the frame rates here. I was getting a low of 22 frames per second, but averagely I was getting about 28 frames per second, and high I was getting 34 frames per second. I think that's actually pretty good. This was definitely playable. Next, Team Fortress 2. I was getting a low of 20 frames per second, which is not bad, but average I was getting 27, and at a high I was getting 30 frames per second. I think that this is actually pretty playable, and aside from me being terrible at this game, this is actually playable at this frame rate. Next, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I was getting a low of 14 frames per second. Averagely I was getting 20 frames per second, and high I was getting 24 frames per second. Also, I don't know what Final Cut Pro is doing, but it's only displaying a couple frames at a time. This might have been my fault for having OBS not set up correctly when I was recording this, but it was very playable, and it was not that laggy. I don't know why, but this device did not want to run Photoshop well. It kept beach balling, and overall it was very slow. I don't know why this device wasn't wanting to work with Photoshop well, but it does not like Photoshop 2019. And for video editing, with an older version, Final Cut Pro will run okay, but it won't be the fastest or the best. It's also not that fast for video exporting, but the last two videos on my channel were actually made using that Mac, and it worked fine, and I think the quality of them is alright. And after running Geekbench 5 on this computer, the single-core score is 487 and my multi-core score is 1064. I don't think that's that bad for this computer, especially it being 9 years old. Overall, I don't recommend getting a Mac Mini for gaming, but if you want to play some older games and have a Mac that's alright for macOS tasks, then this is a great device. The device is pretty cheap at $120, although you can find this at a normal price of around $150, and it's really compact. And overall, this device has a lot of I/O, and it's just a great little device. So I recommend you buy this device for a secondary gaming device for older games, and don't expect much from it when you're gaming. But thank you for watching this video. More content soon. Goodbye.